It's great to be with you today on another episode of Lead Well with Mental Fitness. And I'm super excited to have Danielle Shroyer here with us today. And Danielle, why don't you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I am Danielle. I live just outside of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. My background is in HR. I spent about 20 plus years in corporate HR. Most recently, I was a talent acquisition leader, and now I work for myself and I help my younger self. So I help HR departments of one and HR professionals who are moving into leadership grow and develop their leadership skills. They don't typically teach leadership whenever you're getting your HR degrees and your certifications, but HR is leadership whether you have a team or not. So I work with my younger self. That's who I like to help.
I love that. That's amazing. So I want to just dive in because I know you're an expert in human design, especially in terms of leadership. And I know that term, we hear that term often, but I want to hear from you. You know, what does human design actually mean? How does it, impact leadership, and what are you doing with it?
So this has been such a journey for me because it's been so interesting and it keeps coming back to me. So I started studying human design a little over a year ago. So far from an expert, but I guess I know more than the average, layperson on it. So it's a combination of 5 different ancient wisdoms, right? So you've got Kabbalah, you've got the chakra system, you've got Vedic philosophy, you've got I Ching, and then you've got astrology mixed in with some quantum physics. So it's a whole mix of things. But what I love about it, it's called the science of differentiation. So it's basically how we are different from the person next to us. And we always talk about like inclusion and understanding diversity, right? And I understand like those have different meanings. But as humans, we're all different. We're all unique, right? So what I learned so much just in studying my own human design down to just how I make decisions. I always thought I was indecisive. I always thought I'm a Libra. So Libras are known to be indecisive. And then it was funny because when I read that years ago, it told me I should be a judge. And I'm like, well, if I can't make decisions, how am I going to be a judge, right?
Yeah, that could be problematic.
But here it comes down to, I make decisions with my gut. And so I've learned that I need a yes or no question. And I need to, and that means that I can usually respond with my body pretty quickly if it's something that I'm familiar with. If it's not something I'm familiar with or prepared to answer, then I might need to step back a little bit and ask other yes or no questions that lead up to that. So I understand how I actually make those decisions. And some people, that's a sacral authority. And I learned that from a human design. And it's funny because now I can say to my husband, hey, don't ask me where I want to go eat dinner. Ask me if I want to go for Mexican. And chances are 99% of the time, the answer is yes, because I love Mexican. So just things like that. I think human design can be used in so many aspects of our lives. And some people see it as a little woo because there is some astrology in it. But when I think about, you can get me talking about human design forever.
Oh, I love it. No, it's interesting. Yeah.
And I'm passionate about it. So when I think about human design, I think about personality tests, right? So you think about DISC or you think about Myers-Briggs. You take those and you take a test and you answer questions. And I took DISC 3 separate times within a couple years. I was a CD the first time. I was a DI once, and then I was a C. Oh, are you there? Okay.
Yeah.
Computer screen went to sleep. So then I did all that, and I was like, well, this changes. Like, and then even after I took it the 3rd time, the guy that I was taking it for called me, and he was like, how did this happen? And that's the thing. It's based on who you are when you're answering those questions.
Yes.
And we are a different person today when we're reading a book versus we are tomorrow when we're reading a book, because we are just in a different frequency, different mindset, different everything. So you're changing how you answer those questions based on what you have going on. I mean, when I was a CD, I was burnt the hell out. I was just so, and then like I was healing from burnout when I ended up being a DI, so it's just things change those things, but human design doesn't change.
Interesting.
So that's what I love is like, we are who we are, but we're conditioned to be who we've become.
Okay.
So I think that's the biggest thing. And that's peeling apart that conditioning and understanding where that conditioning is showing up versus who we truly are. So
okay.
I love human
Well,
design.
what is kind of interesting, what I would think with it too, is, we are often very different from how we are at work than we are in our personal life. And especially for leaders, they have, I don't want to say strong personalities necessarily, but they're, always focused on other people and, their team, and they make a ton of decisions and they delegate and they've got all the things going on. And then when they get home, they're like, okay, I don't want to make another decision. I don't want to lead this discussion. It's just totally different. So how does that impact like human design?
Human design is a baseline, I guess, of who you are, who you're born to be, right? And then all of that conditioning based on how you are at work, you change your behavior based on who you're around, what you're feeling, all those things, and what you're surrounding yourself with, right? So that's all conditioning.
Got it.
So your true self isn't always coming out at work or even at home. I mean, I know a lot of people that stay at work because they don't want to be at home. It's,
I know, so sad, but so true.
Yes. Yeah. So it's human design is just understanding yourself and who you are, and then being able to understand how you're showing up in different places and how that differs from yourself, and where you're, kind of, because I talk about burnout a lot, and I think you do as well.
Yes.
From a burnout perspective, I didn't burn out because I was working 100 hours a week. I burned out because there was so much going against me. There was so much that I was feeling like I was constantly having to fight an uphill battle for. There was so much happening that I didn't believe was correct. And because it was the best company I ever worked for in my life. Like, I was so bought in. I was so passionate. I could sell that company to anybody that was looking for a job, or even if they weren't looking for a job, I could sell that company. But then whenever it started, I'm inside of it. And when it started not being what I thought it was, and I'm sitting there fighting against that wall, because I'm just me, right? It's a 40,000 person company. I'm nothing compared to, I can't fix it or do anything. If it needs fixed, I don't know, but, kind of steer it back to the direction that I thought it should go. But I burn out because I was fighting that uphill battle constantly. And it was just, I was so bought in, and I was so like, it was personal, because, I was employee number 45 and we grew it to 1,500. So like, my team was the talent acquisition team. My team was responsible for growing it to 1,500. So it was my baby, and I burn out because of that. And it was because everything, like when I started, it aligned with me completely. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for my entire career. And then when I ended, nothing aligned with me anymore. And even now I look at it and I'm like, there is just no way. Like, I am not cut out for those big companies. I am not cut out for, they get in their own way, and it makes me crazy. It's just, it's a constant battle, but that's, that burnout happened as a result of me not being aligned with who I truly was.
Yeah. And you bring up such a valid point, because I think a lot of times when leaders, or anybody for that matter, burns out, it's due to misalignment, because they went into their career passionate about what they were doing. I mean, they wouldn't have gone into it in the first place, right? They stuck with it because they felt that they could make a difference. And, maybe they did for a while. And then, to your point, things change. The world evolves, And it's certainly a lot different now than when we were in the workplace, in the corporate workspace. So yeah, that misalignment can really just wreak havoc. I know when I coach people, and I'm sure you have similar instances, they're like, I just feel lost, and I can't just leave because I'm at a place now where I make a high income, and the job market sucks. Let's be blunt. It's not great, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But I'm not happy, and there's this big disconnect. So talk to me, how had you known more about human design when you were in the workplace? Would that have changed anything for you?
So there's this really interesting part, and it's a part of astrology, but I find it so interesting because we talk about midlife crises, right? And usually we talk about it with men, buying their sports car, their motorcycle, or getting that young girlfriend or whatever. But women are experiencing it too, but we never we just women are just so resilient. They just push through no matter what, right? And so we never really, I don't want to say address it because it's not something that needs addressed. It just needs recognized. I think, and there's this thing called Uranus opposition, and it happens in your 40s. So your midlife crisis is written in the stars, whether you want to admit it or not, right? We've made it halfway through our life, and now something isn't right, right? And that's where either we figure out we're misaligned and we change it, or universe recognizes that we're misaligned and changes it for us. And that's what happened to me.
Okay.
I think if you look at anybody in their 40s that has had, there's so many of us that have had like either a layoff or, a termination, or have just like up and left our corporate jobs and gone to the grocery store to work or something. There are so many of us that exist that because it just wasn't fulfilling, and we recognized it and we're like, this isn't okay. This isn't what we want. And I think for me, it was my world was turned upside down completely. But the next day I was like, I don't have to go in there anymore. Yeah, right. So it's so interesting to me. If I would have known it back when I was in corporate, I would say I was there for 7.5 years. Around year 4, I was feeling an itch. I didn't know what it was. I knew it was like time to move on. So I knew that, but like it was my baby. So it was really, really, really hard to leave. And there wasn't another opportunity in the organization that I wanted. Like I had been in HR for so long. I didn't want to go outside HR. There just wasn't another opportunity. So yeah, if I had to go back, I probably would have left at year 4 if I knew what I know now. But I also think that everything happens for a reason. And me not leaving at year 4, because I would have went right into corporate again. And I am where I belong. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes. So ultimately that's where you were to go. So that's awesome. So talk to me then, like, when you work with your clients, how do you integrate the human design? How does that help them? I mean, you shared your experience, but I guess talk to me first about all the different types. Obviously they're HR leaders, but kind of different areas, because that encompasses so much. So tell me about the different types and then how you integrate the human design.
So the interesting thing is human design, I feel like, coming from corporate for 25 years, right? I have always had a little bit of a woo side to me. Not like, not a big woo side, but always been super curious about stuff. And so when I discovered human design, I was afraid to incorporate it into any of my corporate clients, right? And because I was like, oh, they're going to think I'm crazy, absolutely not. But the longer it goes and the more that I see about it and I think about it and I see people's reactions to it, I think that it's something that people are thirsty for. I think that it's something that people are, that they want to learn. Everybody wants to learn more about themselves. I think everybody's like, how many times do you see assessments online and you're like, oh yeah, let me go learn what kind of decision maker I am or whatever. And so I think that people are thirsty for it. I reached out to an HR group that I'm in and I was like, hey, I'm getting my certification in human design. I have to do 3 readings. Can I, is anybody interested? And that gave me all I needed to know. I had 15 people respond. And
Wow.
so that was like, everybody was very interested. So to me, I was like, okay, there is definitely a thirst for this. And so I don't bring it up to my clients at this point right away, but I do talk to them about it after we've established some connection and trust. Because it's your birth date, your birth your location, and your time. So those are the 3 things that you need. So in order to do that, we run the chart and then we look at it and see, where they may be struggling, and it explains why. I had somebody yesterday, it's not an HR client, it's actually somebody that I know that I get her services. She's struggling with something in her marriage and she's 55 years old. I was like, let me run your chart. And so I ran her chart and I ran it and I looked at the cycles, which is like that Uranus opposition cycle that happens in your 40s. There's Saturn return, the second Saturn return. There's also those things. So I looked at that and I looked at also like from family and relationships. And a lot was revealed because she's feeling a certain way right now. And a lot was coming up. So it's really interesting and just, it helps you understand, because a lot of people are just like, I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel this way and I need to figure it out, or everybody's telling me to figure it out, but I don't know what to do. So that's another example. And I mean, that's not even an HR client, but that's just somebody that, could benefit from it.
That's awesome. I love that. I know we have a similar kind of path because, I mean, when I was introduced to positive intelligence, it was kind of the same approach. I had existing clients. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to test these principles. I'm not going to, go into full blown bit. And the response was overwhelming. So it's so cool when you land on something that, like you said, people are thirsty for and that could really be beneficial. Now, I do have a question though. So I'm adopted, for example, and I obviously know my birth date. I have no idea at what time I was born. I can't even guess. I don't know. And it was a closed adoption. So I can't get that information. So what do you do?
There's an estimator that we can use, to help figure it out. If we have your date of birth, usually the time, it depends on the time of day, but we can get that narrowed down. And we can pull it and look at like what makes most sense, based on just who you are. So if you don't have the exact time, that's okay. There's an estimator.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. So to say specifically, so what is going on in the workplace, right now? There's just so much. I know we could go into like hours and hours of this, but, in your opinion, so what are some of the top stressors, or I don't want to say stressors, but challenges that are facing HR leaders in your opinion? And then how does human design kind of integrate into that?
Yeah. So I think, like I said, I work a lot with HR departments of one, and they are overwhelmed. I mean, they've got everything coming at them, coming across their desk. One of my clients gets called for the toilet being clogged. And it's like, why? Are you the one? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but it's just because nobody really knows what HR does. I've heard so many people throughout my career say, oh, they're HR, they don't do anything. And it's like, it's so not true. And it's so, it's not, I think a big part of, I have a program coming up on the 19th, and it's for 6 people, and it's the undeniable HR leader. And what it is it's actually for HR professionals to, let's get a job description together. You may have one, but let's get it and let's put it in layman's terms so you can explain to the organization what you do. Because I think if the organization understands what you're there for, rather than everything falling on your desk, that goes a long way, because then you're setting clear expectations. And let's get the things in place that you need to get in place in order to not be the catch-all, right? So the toilet being clogged. How do you fix them coming to you? Put a sign in the bathroom that says, if there's an issue with this bathroom, please call this number. And they can call the receptionist, the facilities person, whoever. Even if you're close to the bathroom, that sign's there for a reason. And you can be like, call the number on the sign. And then you don't have to deal with it anymore. But it's something that's simple, but it's, we're drinking from a fire hose so much that we just do it because it's just, that's who we are. That's what we do. And it's not feasible because so many HR professionals are burning out.
Oh, so true. Yeah. And oftentimes they're, especially if they're pretty seasoned or they've been with the organization for a while or the department within the organization. So they're like the senior person and they kind of are that go-to person. So they just feel, well, it's just easier if I just do it. But that's a recipe for disaster because then everything gets attached to them. And I love how you said, let's, define those specific, and really in a boundary sense, specifically, this is my job description. So, okay. So in addition to that, elaborate more, because I was going to ask you about this anyways, about your course and how do people join and just how long it is and so forth.
Yeah, so it's a 6-week program. It's going to be 90 minutes a week, and we're going to dive into the different aspects of HR and organizational dynamics. So one of my biggest challenges in organizations is dealing with politics. So I want to share what I learned in dealing with organizational dynamics, because those decisions, a lot of decisions, I've gone into to the meeting rooms, right? And I've gone in and I've got all my research and everything. And I'm like, this is what we're going to do. And we walk out, a different decision was made. And I go to my office and I'm like, why won't they listen to me? I know what I'm talking about, right? But that decision was made before we even got in that room. And so we need to understand, like, I want to help them understand how you get the buy-in from the people that need to know and make the decisions versus just walking in that room and then wondering why your recommendation doesn't land. So it's influence is what we're going to focus on in there. And just, trying to help them get that stuff off their plate that, they just handle without even thinking about. Yeah, I'm just excited. It's going to be a co-creating opportunity. It's my founding member group. It'll be 6 people. I currently have 3 that have expressed interest. So I am looking at 3 more. And yeah, so I'm just super excited about it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
That is cool. Really excited for you. So what else is going on with you? I mean, that's a big thing, obviously, but what else is kind of going on with you right now?
The interesting thing is the human design, right? So I'm bringing that more into my business. I'm getting ready to start a podcast with a lady that I met locally that does human design. She is much more knowledgeable than I am. I'm so excited. So she and I are doing a Substack Live on Tuesday to kind of announce the podcast. So that's super exciting. And we're not sure exactly what that's going to look like yet, but we're going to figure it out as we go. And maybe that's going to be, different people come on and we do readings and help people understand. I think that could be a lot of fun. And then also talking about leadership and how human design, affects your leadership and what kind of leader you are. And a lot of times we're taught different things than who we actually are. And then we push against that grain a lot in our life. And it becomes just the way of doing things. So, understanding where we are conditioned. And because we've been conditioned, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's harder for us. So if you think about for DISC, a lot of people are very familiar with DISC. So if you think about DISC, right? So as a D, you can move into any of the IS or C, but it's just more challenging for you, right? Because that's the D is where you sit and that's natural. So human design is the same with conditioning and things like that. So so we'll talk about that. And then also I have a job search workshop that I have coming up next Tuesday. I keep having people reach out about, struggling with finding work and things like that. And I think the job search has changed so much in the last couple of years, I guess since COVID, maybe a few years after COVID, but it's not just, I call it spraying and praying, right? Spraying your resume out there and hoping that somebody it catches somebody's attention, and it's not that anymore. So
No.
yeah, so it's networking and understanding, where you want to be, and being intentional about it. So that's what I'm working on with the job seekers on Tuesday. So that
Nice.
I was trying to do something that was accessible, because it's $25, and it's, as many people that want to sign up can sign up. And I just want to share, my experience, my background, and what is happening on the other side of the computer, right? And then just, my recommendations for how to land a job nowadays.
I love that. That's so important. And yeah, I've talked to a number of people who are looking for a job, and I love that you brought up the fact about that whole spray and pray mentality. That will actually hurt you now.
Yeah.
That actually studies have shown you can't do that anymore, and you have to treat it. You have to create a personal brand.
Yes.
And I think in the past that was not really thought about.
Mm-mm.
But you really have to create that personal brand. And with AI, that personal brand has to translate into everything, because you want to be, top of mind. So it's so different. So different now. So I love all of that. So, okay, we have a couple minutes left. Tell people how they can best get a hold of you. And then we'll, when I post this out, we'll have your information as well. So, yeah.
So I am on Substack, the Intentional HR Leader. And then I write articles, I have podcasts out there. And then I have Engage HR. So it's engage-hr.com.
Nice. Awesome. So if somebody wants to talk to you, like about one of your courses or something that's coming up, which is the best way to do that? Just go to your website, or?
Yeah, you can go to the website, or you can, my email address is also on the website, and I'll share it with you as well. And you can post it, or I can post it underneath the live.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. This has just been amazing. And yeah, I just wish you... it's great to catch up with you too. And thank you for sharing your wisdom. And I just wish you much success in your new cohort that is unfolding. So,
yes,
all right.
All right. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.